Don't quit your job and start an online business, at least not yet, until you understand these few things. Social media is going to show you the glamorous side of having your own online business, but if they told you these things I'm about to share with you, they would lose sales. So of course they're not going to tell you. But eventually you're going to run into these problems, so I want to pre-warn you so that when you do run into it, you know how to overcome it. But first thing is recognizing. Number one, entrepreneurship is extremely lonely. Growing up, when you go to school, when you have a day job, you're always forced to be around people. It's almost like forced friendships that are being created because you're in the same room as people. You have no choice but to get along with them. If you start your own business, it's very isolating. You're not around those people. Think about right now how many friends you still hang out with that you met at work or at school. If you didn't go to work or school, would you be friends with them? Would you ever have known they existed? You don't have that when you start your own business. It's very isolating. Typically, most people will be in their office or in their room, working by themselves, staring at a screen because they're just trying to get their business up and running. You don't get any of that human interaction anymore. You ever met somebody at work that you never thought in a million years that you would be friends with, but you guys connected on certain things, whether it's hating your boss, complaining about something about work, you shared common ground. So these forced interactions at work almost breed these unlikely friendships. You don't get as much of a chance when you work by yourself. And like you could probably expect, having your own business has its ups and its downs. It's not linear where every 2 weeks you get paid. Even if you did a crappy job, even if you did a good job, you got paid the same. So your wins when you're super excited are extremely high, but it almost goes unnoticed. And when you're low and you feel like everything is about to crash down, you have no one to speak to because the people that are around you don't really understand what it is you're doing and what you're going through right now. They work jobs. It's hard for them to relate and know what's going on. If they work and get $3,000 paychecks every couple weeks, and you're an entrepreneur and you're like, I just made 20 grand this week. When you tell normal people, they're gonna feel like you're just boasting. And they're gonna be like, that's nice for you. I remember that would happen because I would get really excited when I first started making money, like 10K months, 20K months. I'd be excited and talk to people and they would just be like, that's good for you. Kind of brush it off and kind of almost give you the cold shoulder. And so I stopped telling people. I just stopped talking about it. So then my wins became really lonely. It was like when I hit my first 100K month, like I went and bought this watch. Didn't really tell anybody. I just bought this watch and I was like, hey, something to commemorate it and something to mark this milestone. And so yeah, it's extremely lonely because people can't relate to you. They can't relate to your problems. They can't relate to your wins. Then you have to start becoming even more intentional about socializing. Before you would just go to school, go to work, but now you have to get yourself to get out of your comfort zone, actually go to events where you're around people. I even have private memberships. Like I have a membership to the Soho House. Like I have to pay money to be around other people because that's how limited of interactions I get sometimes. Like I'm just in this room by myself. I actually went to the Soho House yesterday and we did this really interesting thing. It was like a little mixer and we sat in a circle and we just had prompts to talk about ourselves, the things that we're going through and what lights us up when we're busy or, it's just like these weird problems that you normally wouldn't have unless you were like an entrepreneur. And I just noticed that everybody in this group had a hard time socializing and speaking to each other, but we all related on the same problems. How do we stop working so hard, be intentional about having fun and doing the things that we like and actually socializing with people? Like we all went to this because we needed to socialize with more people. So we did forced socializing events. It's insane. But then another thing happens. When you start doing things that most people don't do, you don't want to surround yourself with most people. And so you start looking for people who operate on your level, people who are secluded, creatives, entrepreneurs, because they're the ones that get you. There's that saying that you're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So not only are you around less people, but you need to be careful about the people that you surround yourself with. And that's why we have these private memberships and stuff like that, because the likelihood of somebody that is able to get into something like that and they're actually willing to spend the money, the time to be there, the likelihood that they're a high achiever is higher. So then that's just the thing. It's like you want to surround yourself with people that are doing better than you. And if you're working really hard, that becomes harder and harder to find. Number 2, being your own boss is harder than having a boss. A lot of people want to quit their jobs because they just are like, I hate taking orders from somebody else. But there's actually a lot of beauty in taking orders from somebody else. One of the hardest things that you have to do as a business owner is make decisions. Decisions make or break everything, deciding on which way you go. When you have a boss, it removes all decision making. You literally are just like, boss told me do this, I do thing boss says. When you don't have a boss and you are your own boss, guess who has to come up with all those? You got to figure out what to do, where to do it, who should do what. Is this a good decision? Is this a bad decision? Is this going to break my business? Like, all of that is on you. Think about how many times you let yourself slide. You woke up, you're like, I should go to the gym this morning, but I think I'm just going to skip a day. Day 1 ends up being 2 days. Day 2 ends up being 3 days. I should eat healthier, but today I'm going to have pizza. We let ourselves slide a lot because it's hard to keep ourselves accountable. And that's something we really have to learn if we want to have a successful business. Because letting yourself slide once ends up becoming twice, ends up becoming 3 times. And all of those times that you say, I'll do that later, ends up stacking up. You end up getting nothing done. If you get nothing done, eventually your business shuts down. I think we also underestimate how important accountability and external pressure can actually be. If we grew up with our parents telling us what to do, then we had teachers telling us what to do, then we had bosses telling us what to do, we never thought that this would be a problem. In fact, all we wanted to do was rebel against what they said. But once you step out on your own, you start to realize how easy it is when someone just tells you what to do. This is why coaching, personal training, mentorship is also extremely valuable, because I think most of us understand how to lose weight. You eat less, you work out more. Those are just like the 2 formulas. If you do that, you would probably lose weight. Why is most of America still obese? It's not a shortage of information that they have. They know exactly what to do, but it's hard to get themselves to do it and be their own motivator. So if you only had to do those 2 things and everybody knew how to do it and it was completely obvious, why do personal trainers have jobs? The extent is literally you would live longer if you ate better, yet we still eat like crap. We get overweight, our lifespan gets cut in half, yet that's still not enough of a motivator for us to do it. That's how powerful it is to actually have accountability. When you're your own boss, you have to be self-accountable. That is a very tough discipline to learn. It's not something that happens overnight either, because we're creatures of habit. And so these things have to build over time in each sector. Maybe you build really good habits of waking up early, but not necessarily working right away. Now you have to build the habit of working immediately. Maybe you run into the issue that you work so hard that you don't take breaks and your brain is too stressed out. Now you have to make that a habit. And so self-discipline doesn't come in just one area. You have to learn it in every single small micro aspect for you to be able to become the successful person you need to be self-disciplined enough to be your own boss. That's why it's difficult. And this is why a lot of people fail. Number 3, you're gonna have to learn a lot of things that you find boring. For a lot of us, we quit our jobs because we're not passionate about it and we want to do something that we like more. You'll quickly realize that you can't just focus on the thing that you're passionate about, because in order to feel your passion, there's other skill sets that you have to learn to keep it afloat. Look, I wanted nothing more than to quit my job, do music in any realm. I just wanted to be a music producer. So I imagined that my life would be sitting there making beats all day and I'd be completely stoked. But if I made beats all day and nobody knew I existed, how would I make any money so that I didn't have to get a job and I could continue making beats? You've got to learn a lot of things that you don't want to learn. The thing that hinders a lot of people is they refuse to learn these things because they just want to focus on their passion. This is why talent only goes so far. Have you ever heard a musician where you're like, man, that person is so talented. Why aren't they bigger than they are? Reverse that. Have you ever heard somebody on the billboards and you're like, I don't know how their music is so big? Talent is not the only thing. You have to be able to garner attention. You got to understand brand, marketing, things like that. Those are what gets you far. You'll quickly realize that, okay, once I'm good at my thing, how do I get people's attention? So now you got to learn how to make content. How do you write hooks that get people's attention immediately so they don't just skip right over? Because if I don't get their attention, they're not going to know what I do. How do I speak on camera so that I don't look like an awkward human being? Then you start going into the spiral of, okay, I need to figure out what I need to sell. How do I market it so that I can actually get other people's attention? Okay, now that I've gotten their attention, I don't know how to sell them. So then you have to learn sales. And guess what? Once you learn sales and you start making money, you're like, I've got all this money now. I'm not sure what to do with it. And so you start blowing all this money. Then you have to learn money management. And you know, when you get a job and they take money out of your taxes and you're like, that sucks. That sucks that I have to take money out of my tax. Guess what? When you're self-employed, you also get self-employed tax. So now you have to learn taxes. You have to learn the discipline that when you get $1,000, you take 300, put it in another account, don't touch it because that's gonna go to taxes. The crazy part is once you learn all this stuff and you wanna get to the next level of your business, you have to start unlearning the things that you learned that got you there. For example, when you start out, you're a solopreneur, you basically grind, put on all the hats and do everything. You do marketing, you do messaging, you do sales, you're on video. That will only get you to a certain point. Then at one point, you as one person can only handle so much, so then you have to start hiring other people. And you have to let go of the idea that you're the only one that can do all these tasks. Now you have to learn how to train all these people to do it as good as you, or at least good enough. So you see, it's not just about focusing on your passion. If you just focus on the thing that you're passionate about, only gonna get you so far. You're gonna have to learn a lot of boring things that you don't wanna learn and you didn't think you had to learn. But the best hack to get around this is just always be a student and just love learning. I love learning new things because new things excite me, even if it's things that I didn't realize I wanted to know. It's so cool learning about these different tax loopholes, and you kind of start to understand how people who make money start saving more money. These things are really fun to learn, but you gotta let yourself want to learn them. And you always gotta be a student. The times that I struggled the most in my business is when I thought that I already knew how to do something. And I mean, that is the hard part, is you have to pretend like you know nothing, empty your cup, be willing to take in more information, and then be able to find out what things should apply, what things should I let go of. And it only gets harder and harder and harder as you learn more things, because then your storage essentially becomes full. You have something called knowledge baggage is what I like to call it. When you were 5 years old and you knew nothing, you were like red, blue, yellow. It's so easy to learn things because you're a sponge. You're an empty plate. There's no conflicting thoughts in your mind. You're not like, this is how I understand how this works. The more that you learn, the more contradicting thoughts that you have, and the harder it is to retain new information. So now you have to learn the skill of letting all that go, pretending like you don't know anything, so that you can bring in more things. The best thing I can give you for learning is just always be a student and always pretend like you don't know anything. As soon as there's friction and you're like, I already knew this, that's where you stop learning. Crazy part is, I'll say all this, but most businesses still fail within the first 3 years of starting. Check out this video. I talk about the things to avoid if you want to survive what most businesses don't survive.